Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us here today for this WESIS webinar. We're so proud to have Microsoft, a strong strategic partner of our organization, be able to be here today with Melanie presenting on Passwordless Future, why passwords are still around when nobody likes them. So this is going to be a wonderful presentation. We're super excited to have Melanie here presenting with us today. My name is Lynn Dome, Women in Cybersecurity Executive Director. We often go by our acronym WESIS, WICYS, like we sisters, because that's exactly what we are. We're a cyber sisterhood. So our mission is to recruit, retain, and advance women in cybersecurity. And we do so by creating opportunities. We have over 5,000 members in over 70 different countries. And since we're a 501c3 member-based organization, we have a member forum where all our members can network and connect. We have special interest groups such as Latinas in cybersecurity or neurodiversity in cybersecurity, data privacy, cybersecurity law, you name it, we have a special interest group for you. We also have skill development training programs, newsletters, webinars, scholarship grants and awards, not only for the WESIS conference, but for other conferences as well. We have a cyber talent emergency fund designed for students within their last 4 semesters of graduating with their cybersecurity program that have a true financial emergency. They could receive up to $599 within 48 hours of applying for that, because us as a community, we don't want those financial burdens of medical expenses or unexpected car expenses to derail them from their studies. We're here to build the capacity in the cybersecurity workforce, and we'll support our community any way we can. We have speaking and media opportunities. We want our members to be what others can see, and that's the cybersecurity professionals that they are. We have a job board plus where all our strategic partners like Microsoft recruit from year round and post their jobs in, and all our members have access to that. We have apprenticeship programs, internship programs, participate in market research, have leadership summits and virtual and in-person career fairs. We have a veterans and military spouse assistance program, a mentor-mentee program, which we're really proud to say that we have 707 mentees and 191 mentors in that 12-month structured framework and curriculum that we've designed and developed. And we have so many more opportunities. So I encourage you to go to our website and check it out. And we owe all this as a special thanks to AWS, Bloomberg, Carnegie Mellon Software Engineering Institute, Cisco, Facebook, Google, Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, which brings us this fabulous webinar here today, and Optum. We have AbbVie, JP Morgan Chase and Company, LinkedIn, Navy Federal Credit Union, Nike, Sentinel One, Wayfair, Workday, Accenture, American Airlines, Arctic Wolf, Champlain College, Dell Technologies, Envestnet, Flatiron, Fortinet, Haystack Solutions, Here Technologies, The Home Depot, IBM, Indiana University, MITRE, Motorola Solutions, Oak Ridge National Lab, Palo Alto Networks, PayPal, Salesforce, Sands Institute, SAP, Schlumberger, Smooth Stack, Spear Tip, Starbucks, Target, University of California, San Diego, and Verizon. Woo, that is a mouthful, but we love and support all our strategic partners. They're the foundation of all things WESIS. So without further ado, I'm going to be introducing Melanie, and I want to encourage all attendees to please ask lots of questions. Here we have Melanie from Microsoft presenting here today. So this is your time to look at the bottom of your screen and see that chat functionality, and to be able to put your questions there as she's presenting. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the WESIS newsletter and join a part of the community. So I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic over to Melanie so you could take it from here.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me, Lynn, to come and join your webinars. I'm super excited about this topic, one of my favorite topics to share about passwords. So thank you again for inviting me. Great. I've been a product marketing manager in cybersecurity at Microsoft for the last 5.5 years. Before that, I was at another security company and started my career as an MBA intern, actually. And I just immediately fell in love with this mission of cybersecurity to really help protect people and in just a small way, help the world be a better place and protect from the bad guys. So it's super fun to be in this industry and and be here with fellow cybersecurity gals like you. So should I switch to the slides? Can you see them? Okay.
Yep.
So why passwords are still around when nobody likes them? I thought this might be an interesting topic. You know, I've done a lot of research and been around this topic for a long time, and this question just always comes to my head. You know, gosh, like we have the tech, like why are they still around? So that's what we're going to talk about today, and just some of the trends and things that are shaping the industry, and hopefully a brighter future for us going forward. So passwords have been around for 60 years. The first kind of documented passwords were developed exactly 60 years ago in 1961. That's when computers were just being created, and they needed a way to lock the computers. And as you would probably guess, you know, some of the very first passwords were some of these on the right, like password. You know, what's your eight character passwords, and did some research, and these passwords on the right, 1 2 3 4 5 6, 1 2 3 1 2 3, even I love you, are very popular. In fact, these same passwords have been on the top passwords list for the last 10 years. So there's something there. You know, why haven't habits changed? Why do we still do this when we know if you use a common password, you could easily get hacked? And it's just, you know, a lot of it comes down to human nature, and also attacks are getting more and more sophisticated every day that capitalize on our human fallibilities. So it's pretty interesting to me that, you know, there's got to be something else we can do besides requiring passwords, because we all are humans, and it's human nature to want to use the same passwords. So I have a question for you, and I think we can do a poll here. How many online accounts do you have? Like, think about all the accounts you've ever created online that are so active. The username and password, how many do you have? I'll give you a minute to answer those. Do you guys see the poll? There's a couple entries. If you go to the poll button, you should be able to see it. Great, getting some good responses. Okay. So there's, okay, it was a lot of people said between 30 to 60. So that's a pretty, you know, pretty healthy amount of accounts. Some said less, maybe 10 to 30. And tied with that was more than 100. So I think, you know, a lot of us, you know, if you just think about in the last week, how many sites have you logged into? It's even hard to think that far. So I think it's also hard to estimate as well. But there was a survey, and the average is actually over 100. It's about 130 per person that people have accumulated over time. And each one of these accounts, you're using a password. And let's be honest, most of the time you're using the same password over and over. That's a popular thing, easy mental thing for you to do. And unless you're using a password manager, in that case, perhaps a little stronger, because you would have the password manager generate it for you, and so you don't have to remember it. But essentially, it's really difficult to remember so many different passwords, and so that's why people tend to use the same passwords over and over. So let's talk about breaches for a second here. So we recently did a report at Microsoft, and I put the link here if you'd like to take a look. But you can see this bar going really high. It's this kind of teal colored phishing bar. And that is just showing you over the last few quarters how quickly and dramatically phishing has gone up. And phishing, as you recall, is where you're sent an email, it has a link to enter your information. So you go to the website, it looks legit, and you put in some of your information, and then it's actually not the official site, it's a hacker site. And so then they're able to take your information and use it to sell on the web. And so phishing is a huge, huge problem. It's responsible for 70% or more of data breaches. And so it's one of the things that it's not going away. In fact, when we look at our Microsoft consumer accounts that only have a password were breached 20% more in the past year. And a lot of that is because, with the pandemic situation, more people are online and working from home and things like that. And so it's more likely that you're going to get breached at this point, especially if you only have a password on your account. And here you can see also from the same report, when bad actors are looking for, getting some money, doing their next job, and they look at the prices of doing different things, stolen username and password pairs are honestly the lowest cost. You can buy them in bulk, 97 cents for 1,000 on average. And what they do is take these username and password pairs and try them across a bunch of different websites. And so what that means is that regardless of whether you have a really strong password, it could be a 12-digit or longer with special characters and everything, it's still susceptible to be compromised because they could literally just scrape it from one of those phishing websites or hacking into the system and getting the database from a company and be used, they call it a password spray, to be sprayed across a bunch of different accounts and see what sticks, because they know that people use the same passwords for multiple websites. So it's an easy attack, and they don't have to break in, they just have to log in with one of these stolen username password pairs. So if you think about what happens after your credentials are stolen, I mentioned a couple things. One is that they will probably try to log in, create a backdoor account, and then sell access to your system. That's on the bottom left, access brokers. Another thing they could do is stack rank your credentials. So try to get an understanding of how valuable your credentials are. And if there's money attached, maybe a subscription, Netflix subscriptions are a common one to be stolen, bank accounts, social media accounts, email accounts, because you get a lot of security alerts and notifications to your email. It'd be great to own that as a hacker. So they stack rank your credentials. The lowest value ones are sold in bulk. So I mentioned, less than $1 for a bulk amount of accounts, and more for more high profile accounts. They may also use your account. So they'll go log in, and then they'll send malicious messages to your trusted contacts. They could also send phishing emails to people in your contact list to try to get their information. Another thing they could do is change some of the settings in your account. So create some email forwarding rules to forward anything of interest to them to a different, hacker account. And then they could also, kind of the last thing they might do is when all the information is entered from multiple people on these phishing websites, they could take a look at some of the popular passwords, and they could see, if there's any trends, and then start using those new passwords to password spray across other accounts. So there's a lot of money, a lot of jobs involved, a lot of things that they can do with your stolen credentials. So it's kind of scary. So what can we do, right? And so the cybersecurity professional wants to be able to control it, especially for your organization. You don't want your company to be at risk. And so a lot of time what organizations do is they start requiring stronger, more complex passwords. So there's actually a lot of different comedians who've talked about passwords. Okay, first we're going to start by making it longer. Okay, now we're going to add a capital letter. Well, what's the first letter people are going to capitalize? The very first one. And so now you have a capitalized password. Then you need to add a number. Well, okay, let's add a number at the end, and we'll use a number 1. That's pretty common. Now you want a special character. Okay, I'm going to put an exclamation mark at the end as well. So, we've kind of gotten used to some of these requirements. Some companies say no common words or using your name, which is a good thing they're trying to do. No reused words or passwords. And then, now you have to enter a code on top of that. So it's becoming more and more complicated. And at the end of the day, as an individual, I just don't, I don't like these passwords. I forget my passwords. I don't want to keep creating new ones. I'm just going to write it down, or if I'm smart, I'll put in a password manager, but then I have to pull out my password manager every time. And that's protected by 1Password. So at the end of the day, I think some of you might relate with me. You just get this feeling, I just don't have any more passwords left in me. And it's, when is this going to end? So the good news is there is a chance that we can have no passwords in the future. And that's because of the FIDO Alliance. So FIDO stands for Fast Identity Online. And it is a group of industry leaders, security experts, a lot of big companies. Microsoft's involved, Google, Facebook, Apple, bunch of financial companies, security companies. And our goal was to say, hey, we need to find a way that isn't phishable for people to log in. It protects us, it protects them. It's the right thing to do. And so, several years ago, the Alliance started, and they started putting together some technology standards. So examples of technology standards are things like, the Blu-ray, that kind of took over from the DVD, or Bluetooth. You guys are all familiar with Bluetooth. At one point, there were a lot of different standards, and they kind of converged to one. So in a similar vein, there's a sign-in standard. It's called the FIDO standard. And now there's a FIDO 2 standard that's evolved to be more phishing resistant and to not require passwords at all. And so there is this technology. It has been ratified, and it's being built into a lot of different products. So now we have new sign-in methods. So it can use biometrics. So for example, on a Windows PC, we have something called Windows Hello. So it uses the camera to recognize your face and log you in directly into your laptop. And now with compatible websites, it can log you into specific accounts as well. And then there's also on the phone. So you might use Touch ID, Face ID, the Android equivalent on your phone to log in. And you probably have been using it more often for your accounts logging in on your phone, is being able to just use it to unlock your password. And then there's also security keys. So these are little kind of USB keys that you can plug in to your machine, or you could even tap onto your phone. It comes, there's a variety of methods actually that are considered security keys. It could be a badge, like your work badge, where you can just, it has NFC, near field communication, so it can just tap in. There's several new ones that use biometrics, so it could be something like a ring that senses your heartbeat and it'll log you in using Bluetooth or NFC. So a bunch of different companies, a bunch of security companies working on different methods, but all of them use some form of hardware to manage cryptographic keys and sign you in. So that way it's not phishable. So actually mentioned earlier about habits. And so we have this technology. Technology has been available for a couple of years, actually. And so how do we get people to change their habits? And so I did some research, actually talked with the author of The Power of Habit, so Charles Duhigg, and he shared about this habit cycle. And one of the best ways to change a habit is to change the reward. So if you think about, let's say you need to start exercising more. Well, one thing you can do is before you have a treat, you have to work out or take a walk. And so that kind of helps you change your habits so that you can get the reward. And so when you think of it in terms of kind of passwords and security, really the most effective rewards are ones that are convenient, they remove tension, and they're more intuitive. And so with some of this new technology, it is more convenient because you can just sign in with your face, for example. And it removes the tension of having to remember your password and store and keep them. And also, especially with so many people having phones and being familiar with the new tech, I think it's becoming more intuitive. So I think, as this technology becomes more pervasive, it'll become more common to see. But kind of interesting to think through, especially as an enterprise. How do you change the habits for security in your organization? And in fact, at Microsoft, in our IT department, they started, wanting to roll out these new security changes where you actually didn't ever have to change your password. But instead, you wouldn't use your password, you would use Windows Hello, for example, or a mobile app. And so instead of saying everybody needs to use multi-factor authentication, which sounded, like tension, it sounded less convenient, they said, guess what? You don't have to use your password anymore. And so they kind of changed the narrative. And it did take some time for people to change their habits. Just change in general is difficult, but once they started using it and just having their face recognized, they realized how easy it was. And so now over 90% of people are using passwordless methods. So interesting study to show how it's not just the technology, but also there's some psychology as well as part of the security. So as part of my job, one of my responsibilities is to turn some of this technology into stories. And so I had the incredible opportunity last month actually to announce a new feature where you can completely remove your Microsoft password from your account. And it was just, again, I think people really, it connected with them that, oh, wow, it's one less password I have to remember. I don't have to sign in. Like I only sign into Xbox every so often. Now I don't have to worry about it, or their Office apps or whatever Microsoft services they're using. Now it could be so much easier. They just remove it. Not only is it easier, but they can't get phished because there's no password to scrape. There's no password to steal. They do have to have other factors. So they have to have like a Authenticator app or one of the security keys or Windows Flow I was talking about. They have to have at least, or even verification codes, like maybe a code sent to your phone or email. But all of those are better options than a password. And so my CVP, you can see in this picture on the left, she's wearing the blue jacket, and she was able to get on one of the CNN shows and talk about it. And we actually had Jimmy Fallon talking about getting rid of passwords one night. Or he did a pretty funny skit, of course, took it to the extreme, about a life without passwords and how it would be a life of verification codes, and had a really funny skit. Encourage you to watch it if you hadn't seen it, about some of his band members and answering security questions like, who's your favorite band member? But at the same time, like, it's just really exciting to see security at top of mind. For someone like Jimmy Fallon, it's stuff everybody has to deal with every day. And some of these other responses that I saw, I just removed my password and I never felt so liberated. Like, who knew that everyone was feeling so tied down? And that's consistent feedback that we've been getting from people. This one on the right is just a nod to the Titanic. It's been 84 years. We know passwords have been around for over 60 years. So it really does sometimes feel like a lifetime of passwords, and we're all ready to say goodbye. So we're really excited that we're able to offer this ability to delete your password, and 10 times more people deleted their password in the first week than we expected. So I know Microsoft is one of the first to do this, and I really hope that more companies start to do this as well, because I think we could all benefit from having our passwords gone. So I wanted to kind of end on, we're going into the holiday season, and we're doing a lot of online shopping. And in fact, there was a recent survey conducted by the FIDO Alliance. They do some interesting work that they post on their website, but they did they called it their online authentication barometer report, and surveyed thousands of customers. And a lot of people are concerned. A lot of consumers say they are concerned about their security. And 86% said they were concerned if their smartphone or laptop was hacked. I mean, can you imagine if that happened to you, or if it was stolen? And so so they asked, what are some actions that you've taken to protect yourself? And a lot of people have improved their password strength. So trying to have a more complex password, but as I mentioned earlier, that may help in some situations, but a lot of times it doesn't, because they'll just steal databases of usernames and passwords. A good amount, 38%, now use biometrics. So that's kind of a second factor in a lot of ways to protect your account, or use authentication software such as a password manager. And of those that didn't take an action, quite a few of them just didn't know how. And so I wanted to share these tips so that you know, and you've probably done some of these as cybersecurity professionals, but also a good thing to share as well with maybe some of your friends and family. I know it seems like every year one of my family members says, "Oh, I'm sorry, my account got hacked. I don't read that message," or "What do I do?" So here's what you could do. Number one is be careful what you post on social media. Only share personal information if it's encrypted. So, again, just, some of this stuff can be used against you in an attack or in a phishing, or, they're trying to get information about you. They'll just grab what's publicly available. So just be very careful on social media. Make it private if you haven't already. And then the second one is being skeptical of emails. And phishing obviously is the culprit here. emails asking for personal information, but it's also websites and texts. So I've seen that a lot more. Have you guys been seeing that as well? So, text messages that look legit, I saw one recently where it wasn't to me, but it was in a report where they post as, some sort of a government agency and said, hey, you're kind of part of this program now. Please confirm if you would like to get a warning if something happens. And it could have been, weather, like a weather alert. And if you just respond yes, then they'll ask for information, and then they'll take your information and use it against you. And so you really got to be careful of, where these text messages are coming from. If you've never seen one and you've been with that company a long time, or, if it just seems out of the blue, don't respond, don't open attachments. So we have to be alert more than ever before now. Number 3, big one for me, turn on two-factor authentication where possible. So the easiest way to do that typically is to go to the security settings for your account. So just log in, go to the security settings, and there's typically an option to add an authentication method, a code, and have it use your app. We have the Microsoft Authenticator app. It's free. It's one of the best authenticator apps rated in the App Store. So if you just download that, you can, snap a QR code from the website, or, have it sent to your auth app. And it's not just for Microsoft. You can use it for any website that accepts 2FA. There's a couple other ones as well. Getting it on my phone, that's my preferred method. You can also have it sent as a text message or even email. It's probably not as safe unless your email account is really secured. Or a couple other options I mentioned before where it's supported. So look at your accounts, for example, your bank account. I mentioned social media. Look at your email accounts, of course, and any other, like I mentioned, subscription accounts get hacked. So things where there's money involved, like a monthly fee, Fabletics, think about your accounts and which ones you would most want to protect, which has a lot of information about you, and make sure there's two-factor authentication. That's one of the best things you can do. In our research at Microsoft, you can protect against 99.9% of identity-related attacks if you have MFA. It stops hackers in their tracks. So unless you're like specifically targeted by them, like a high-profile type of person, vast majority of the time, two-factor authentication is going to help you out a ton. So definitely do number 3. Number 4, if you can't use two-factor authentication, use 14-character unique passwords. Store them in a password manager. It's a great thing to do. And then number 5, make sure you lock your phone. Make sure you have a lock on. I know you have to type in a little code, but the nice thing about having a PIN or a passcode on your phone or your laptop is that it's stored locally, so that like someone can't just come in to your phone from the web. They would have to physically have your phone. So make sure you have those locked just in case it ever gets lost or stolen. And then only install apps from the official App Store. So I think this, is a common tip, but just be wary if you get emailed or text an app to download. Only do it from the App Store. Number 7, big one, make sure your software is up to date. That's how you, a lot of times companies will proactively or reactively update their software whenever a security vulnerability comes up. And so to protect you, they submit a software update. And so this could apply to your phone, to your laptop, any of these devices that you're using. Make sure the operating system's up to date, and also your browsers are up to date. And hopefully that's done automatically now. on a lot of phones, but make sure you do those. And then number 8, keep your security info up to date. So if you go to your security settings on your accounts, especially those ones that that I mentioned, are more of a target, like financial and personal information sites, make sure that you look at the ways to contact you and your authentication methods, and that there isn't a funny email added or your phone number changed, and you didn't realize it. Sometimes I get those emails too. Did you change your phone number? And so it's good to go take a look and make sure you have 2FA on those, because a lot of times to change your security settings, you'll get sent an approval notification. As well as if you do get, sometimes on my watch or my phone, I'll get a notification to approve a request. And so always make sure you know what that's for before you approve, because that could also be a way hackers could get past the 2-factor. So yeah, keep your security info up to date. Number 9, watch for recent activity on your account. So a lot of accounts, Microsoft included, you can go again in your security settings and you can see when you've logged in, where you've logged in from. Google does a great job as well of letting you know if there was any suspicious activity. So just pay attention to those as well, especially for those top accounts of yours. And then number 10, lastly, this is a easy thing you can do as well, is just go to this website. It's all one word, haveibeenpwned.com. And you just enter your email address. And this is a nonprofit. It's actually a friend of Microsoft that started this, and now he runs a consulting business. But it will list based on your email which breaches your email has been involved in. And so it's always good to check that. And I think I skipped forward. It's always good to check that and make sure that your password wasn't in a breach. If it wasn't a breach, if it was listed there, make sure you go change it and add 2FA if you can. So I know that was a lot of tips, but I wanted to make sure I share those with you to share with others. And then lastly, just to kind of full circle, when will passwords go away? Well, like I said, like any new technology, it does take time for people and organizations to adopt. But we have seen some incredible momentum this year. Apple, Google, Microsoft, we're all doing, building it into more capabilities and more websites and devices. And I think other companies are doing the same. And so I think, we'll see it just shoot up in the next couple of years. So really excited to see that go forward. And then another thing you can do, educate people. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt about these new methods and whether they're secure, whether they're easy to use. And that happens, again, with any new technology. And, it seems like perhaps signing in with your face, like with your Windows machine, for example, or on your phone, it might not feel very secure. But if it is based on these new FIDO standards, which the main companies are, then it will protect you by storing your biometric only locally. Your biometric never goes to the web. In most cases, at least in the Microsoft implementation, I think in Apple implementation, it may go to iCloud, but it's meant to protect you, and someone would have to physically have you and your device in order to log in. And the truth is, that's very expensive. We talked about how inexpensive it is to take usernames and passwords and use them digitally on websites, but to go to someone's house and get them and their device, that's a lot more effort and a lot more time. And we know human nature is to do the easiest path possible. And so most cybersecurity professionals who are looking at identity authentication solutions know that, and aren't as concerned, I would say, about in-person attacks, especially in the digital world we live in, where most of the attacks, most of the money, most of the hacking is being made through easy methods like taking people's common passwords and through the methods I mentioned earlier. So there is never like you can never say in security that you're 100% secure. I don't think any smart security professional would say that. There's always a way to get around, so that you have to look at let's do the best that we can. That's protect against the majority, and then slowly harden and strengthen the other areas as well. And then the third one here, incorporating it into your regular habits, I think that will accelerate adoption. And so I'm really excited to see more people using biometrics. Like in the survey I mentioned from FIDO earlier, biometrics were the second most popular after passwords. I think it's been because so many people are doing so much on their phone. In fact, I also heard from Visa this week that 60% of e-commerce is done on your phone nowadays. And so, you really need to make sure you're securing your phone, but it's also nice that we're incorporating security directly into where you're logging in the most. And then lastly, just help to push for stronger sign-in. So ask for multi-factor auth if you don't see it. Ask to use biometrics at your company. Again, stored on your device only, as protected with cryptography. But we can all kind of help to move this forward. And I'm really excited to see the progress that has been made so far, and that there is a way and there is a path forward, but it'll take both technology and psychology together to move everybody forward. And so thank you. I hope this was helpful. And I think we can answer perhaps some of the questions. So let me just end it. I put my Twitter, LinkedIn, if you'd like to connect. I love, again, talking about this topic, or cybersecurity career, marketing career. Love to talk to you about that. And in light of Halloween and October, I thought this Scream biometric scanner was pretty funny. If you want to take a look at that. Lynn, do we have any questions?
I love it. I love it. I was just so busy. I'm going to end the slides here, but I was busy writing down your Twitter handle real fast because I was like, oh, good. We're going to connect on Twitter here. So this was a great presentation. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the information. And we do have questions. So how can Microsoft help institution to move to passwordless? And is that possible?
Yeah, so we actually have like I mentioned, I did a campaign about Microsoft accounts. That's something Microsoft did for our own customers, but we also have business software in Azure in the cloud that we provide to organizations. That includes the capabilities to go passwordless in your organization. It's evolving. There's still, especially on the enterprise level, there's still things that we are improving and working on, but we just launched it last March. And so companies can use, it's called Azure Active Directory. I can give you more information if you'd like, but it's the ability to use passwordless comes in our free tier. We also have options for education and government as well. And we work with a ton of partners. So, definitely there's software there. I think also just getting the word out, which is kind of been part of my job, is to help share, there's a better way, and help get people just used to it, just, used to using biometrics, used to using their information goes a long way. So
Great.
hopefully we can be an example. Hopefully the industry takes note and supports.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job bringing a lot of awareness to this and what the future may hold. So someone just put in the question area, just validating that they're getting a lot of text messages pretending to be the mobile provider in sales. I mean, that is an ongoing problem. So bringing awareness to so many, and everyone even attending the session here today, to share that with your colleagues and friends and family members, that this is an issue, and for them to protect themselves is really important.
Yeah, phishing texts are definitely on the rise, so just be super careful what you click on and what you respond to.
Yeah, very good. Another question that came in is, what should individuals do if there was an attempt to break into one of their online accounts? Is there someone they should contact, like the website support team, or just leave it be and monitor other accounts for potential break-in?
So I would say, if you can, log in, change your password, check if there's other security settings, like you can add multi-factor authentication if possible. You can, usually there is a contact. You can submit something. I did that before as well. I got a notification that someone was hacking into my account. Fortunately, there wasn't anything on my account in terms of money. It was just like a rewards. So, but they did give me some steps, and they didn't have monitoring. Some websites do, some don't. But they, took a couple steps to help me protect it. But if things get really bad, like if someone takes over your account and locks you out, then you will have to definitely call support. So hopefully that doesn't happen to you. I know it can be scary, but we've helped a ton of people at Microsoft who've had that happen to them, and found a way to protect their account and get them back in.
Here I am talking on mute. We should know this. Middle of 2021, end of 2021, still talking on mute. All right. So another question is someone mentioning that they have had several devices with biometrics, but in two cases, the services went bad and they could not get into the account. What can one do about this problem? Also, what password managers work best and are not hackable? I don't know if you could give a password manager recommendation, just because there's so many of them and things like that, but perhaps what can you do about that problem of the several biometric devices where the services went bad and they got into the account?
Yeah, I'd have to know more specifics about the case, but I would say biometrics have gotten better. Not everybody uses the same technology that's fully encrypted, for example. So if you use the ones in the main providers, I think that's a safe bet. But yeah, if you get locked out again, you'll have to contact the IT support. And in terms of password managers, I would say the Microsoft Authenticator app, does help to store passwords. So it's connected to your browser, your Edge browser, which, by the way, uses some of the Chrome technology. So it's actually gotten really good if you use the Edge browser. But then it can connect it between your phone and the browser. So you should know, though, that if you're saving your password in your browser, it doesn't necessarily make it safer. It just makes it easier for you to log in. And the best password managers are ones that come up with a new, more complicated, longer password for you. I know 1Password does that. As an example. So if you look in the App Store, you can find some different password manager options. But I do highly recommend it, especially kind of in this interim phase where you can't use Passwordless on all of your websites. It would be good to use a password manager for those. And I actually, just make sure I have 2-factor, and I don't, if my password's weak, it's protected by a second factor, so I'm not as concerned. So, so as long as you have a strong second factor, that makes a big difference.
Very good. Good. And then someone else mentioned to me, I had the contact information for the Azure passwordless platform. Do you have
Yeah,
that?
of course. Yeah. So if you just want to send me a message on LinkedIn, I can also just quickly give you an email. It's called passwordless requests at Microsoft.com. And that's an email that will go to me. So I'd love to help you out if you'd like to talk about it.
So I'm adding it as an announcement here. So passwordless request
Yeah, one word.
at Microsoft.com.
Yeah,
I'm displaying it as an announcement on the bottom of the screen.
great.
Fabulous. All right, we're gonna mark that as red. And how is passwordless more secure than passwords? I know that you've touched on that, but is there any additional information that you could share?
Yeah, so passwordless, and I kind of alluded to this, but it works a little bit differently than normal passwords. So passwords are sent over the internet. They're encrypted, but they're sent over the internet to the website. Whereas with the new kind of FIDO standard of passwordless, what it does is you do a biometric, like say a face scan, and then it'll unlock the cryptographic key on your device, and it will send the public version of the key, to the website. And so it's not sending a password or sharing a password. Like if someone steals that, they would also have to have your phone or your laptop to get in.
Hmm.
And so some of it is behind the scenes. It feels more convenient because you're just signing in with your face, but it's actually got this cryptography going on in the background that is phishing resistant. It doesn't allow man-in-the-middle attacks. So man-in-the-middle attack is like a phishing site where they send you to another website, and it won't work with those. So I could go on, from the FIDO Alliance about how it's technically more secure. I'd give you some resources, but essentially it's a more secure, more hardened technology behind the scenes. So when I talk about passwordless, that's what I'm talking about, is kind of this FIDO based technology, and it really is more secure, and it is multi-factor, and just multi-factor in any sense is more secure than a password alone.
It's really interesting. Thank you for that. So, what do you recommend for sites that you still have a password for? What do you recommend to do?
Yeah, so there's going to be sites that still have passwords. So again, I would say use a password manager or add two-factor authentication. It's as simple as that. Either of those will help you out, especially multi-factor, and help you protect your account. So yeah, hopefully go today and think about your top like 10 or 20 accounts and make sure they're protected. And
Good.
for your family too.
Good advice, and not just for National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, but good advice for all the months of every day of every year. But hopefully, this webinar has inspired, not only educated about passwordless and the future of that, but also inspired folks that have the passwords to incorporate a password manager, some best practices with stronger passwords and multi-factor authentication. And for everyone to be motivated to do that right now while it's fresh top of our mind. So this
Yes.
is so wonderful, Melanie. I really appreciate you coming out and speaking on this really important topic and sharing your knowledge and insight and all sorts of tips that you shared with everyone. I know I tweeted about those tips myself and getting it out there, and for more people to have more awareness of it. So I greatly appreciate your time and Microsoft's attention in supporting the WSIS organization in a strategic partner capacity and also a conference sponsor capacity. So you've been longtime supporters, and we really value our relationship together. And I appreciate your time and attention today. So is there any last words that you would like to leave the audience with before we wrap it up?
I guess just, it's hard to stay on top of your account security. I know it's kind of a pain, but it's like wearing a seatbelt. You just got to do it. And you just, every time you go to an account, make sure you're using it securely. You're not giving away personal information that, could be used against you, or could be sold on the internet. More of our lives are online. And so it's a really important part of our life we need to protect. And every little step helps. You don't have to be perfect. But every little step helps. So hopefully we can all be more safe and secure and not get breached, every day. So I know it's a crazy world out there, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So thank you for having me, and thank you, WeSys.
Thanks. Thank you. And thank you everyone for sharing your afternoon with us today. And until next time, we'll see you later. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.